All right. First thing I have to do with these cracks is I have to make sure that both sides of the crack are not sticking up, because they will show up if that's the case. These are pretty close to level, but just to play it safe, what I'm doing, you can buy these little soldering irons, Home Depot, Lowe's, any of those kind of places, hardware store. Online, you shouldn't have to pay over $25 or $30 at the most. This is really nice because what I can do is I can actually soften and melt the edges of this crack down. It's amazing, you know, this area, this part of the dash is not really flexible, but when you put a little heat in it, it kind of comes back to life. And what I'm doing, I'm taking the little kind of pointed insert in this, and I'm using it just to tuck down the edges of this crack. And what I'm going to do, it doesn't really matter what you put inside the crack, because all that is doing is giving it a even bed to put the fiberglass mesh over and give you something. You want something that sands pretty easy. That, I would say, is very important, since this is an expansion joint. And that's what you're going to see most of the time with people who fix a dash like this, is that they're trying to actually weld or put together the cracks, and that's just not going to work. It's like right here, I've just had a crack show up I didn't even know was there from the process of heating this. When I push here, it's showing up right along there. So it shows how futile that is. But for the purpose of preparing this for filling in, I want to basically get both sides of this down to where they're not just sticking up. See, once I get this filled in and I put my fiberglass mesh on top of it, it's going to be pretty stable. You know, there could be an instance where you have another crack come up later, and that's fine. When I put this dash back in the car, I don't bolt them in like they were from the factory. I'll put like Velcro down in places where it may hit to keep it from rattling. I also will take where there's little metal studs here, I'll go in and I'll open those up to the next size. You know, if they're 1/4 inch, I go 3/8, and the dash pops in and comes off super easy, which is what I want. And you know, I understand why the factory put 15 fasteners in this dash, but that doesn't mean that I have to. What I'm probably going to do in this instance, just to fill this crack in and stabilize this area, I'm probably going to use super glue on this. You'll see me do stuff like that to just kind of help get some of this together. Like along the bottom, I've got a couple of dents. On the face here, there's a couple of dents, but the vinyl is really flexible, so I may take a heat gun and see if I can work those areas out and get them back. Overall, if you were to have one of these dashes sent off to somebody, very expensive to repair this dash, you know, I'm hearing figures like $2,500 to $3,000. Arguably, I can make this dash look as good or better. There are a lot that are way worse than this. Can't help you with that. But this would have been a dash that most people would have sent off and had refurbished anyway. But if you're on any kind of budget and you're not interested in spending $3 grand, I've got a really good solution, because this miniature mesh is the ticket. And we're going to go through that. All right, here we go with the super glue. Now what I'm going to do is at this point, I just want to get this down in it. I don't expect too much out of this first coat of super glue. It's not going to really fill much, but it's going to stabilize it. I can't remember if this is actually the gel that has some filling capabilities, but we're going to see. All right, so now that looks like it, well, there's a couple more spots. All right, so now taking a Bondo applicator, and this feels like it may actually be the gel. I can't remember. Okay, there's a crack that I didn't get right there. There's a crack right there I didn't get. But ultimately, this first coat goes down, you know, I'm driving it down into the cracks, and there's that little guy right there. Okay. Seemed like there was another spot. Oh yeah, right there. Okay. Now this would be less than ideal if this was still a flexible dash. But if it was a flexible dash, more than likely it wouldn't have cracked. All right, so this is the next part, and maybe something that you're not aware of. This is super glue kicker. Don't breathe this stuff. Okay. All right. Oh, there's more cracks right there. Let me get that first. Now what this does, when it stabilizes these cracks and gets down in them, I'll be able to sand on top of this without doing further damage once the cracks are fixed. If I went on it before fixing the cracks, there's no telling what would happen. All right. Now, super glue kicker is not something you want to breathe, so I'm going to be holding my breath. Now with this, because I've used the super glue kicker, I need to wait a little while before I try to put any more super glue on here. You can see if you look into these cracks that it's done a pretty good job of bridging them. And what'll happen now is if I put a second coat on, it's going to start filling in some of these deep places. And that stabilizes the whole area where I can come in here with some kind of sander, a palm sander, a DA sander in my case, and further repair. I still have these two cracks right here. These are the main culprits. I think I'm going to go ahead and super glue them, and then I'm going to build on top of it, because it just keeps it simpler to do it the same way. So now we're going to take and let's start with this top crack here. And if you look here at this corner, you can see that this is shrunk this way, and the corner isn't even where it's supposed to be. So I'm going to have to put a filler of some sort in there to make that speaker opening, speaker grill opening the right size. See, I'm wearing gloves. Not my first rodeo with super glue. I also have debonder, which can come in real handy if you get it on your hands. Okay, that's going to kick that. And if you can probably can't see it with the camera, but that actually has kind of sealed that whole divot. That's pretty impressive what you can do. Now this is not adding flexibility back in. The cool thing about this is pretty well haven't shown you anything to this point that you can't do yourself. All right, back to the dash pad. At this point, if you've done like I've done and you've gotten to this point, you may be thinking, why am I listening to this guy on YouTube? This is not working. It's not going to look very pretty at this point, but all you've been trying to do is stabilize and not create more damage. And it'll get prettier. In the end, I'll show you how to put a grain on this, which will totally hide what we've done. But at this point, we've just got to get everything where it's stable and there's no divots in it. And all of this has to be perfect, like it never had a crack in it before you put the fiberglass cloth in it, which I'm going to show you. But super glue is not something that you want to do a ton of sanding on. It's okay. I'm using 80 grit here for that reason. And you know, I'm pretty confident that, see, these cracks are not opening up. They're staying closed. But like right through here, I can see that I've got a lump of super glue, and I don't want to make that any worse. So at this point, I'm just kind of going in and seeing what's going on with this. And what I'll do for some of these really small areas, I'll take small sanding blocks, in this case just rubber that's for this purpose, and I'll stay right on top of the super glue and get it feathered back where it's level. And of course, remember, when I started out, I used the sheetrock knife to see what was high and what was, you know, what was warped. And this is a pretty straight dash, so I don't want to do anything to change that. And as you can see, like this mess right through here, I pretty much have it back to where this area that was full of cuts is the only area, and this line here is the only area that I really have any issues with getting it down. The super glue is nice because it doesn't change the profile much because it's so thin. So this is looking real good to me. And what I'll do next is I'll be going to a polyester filler. Just call it what it is, Bondo. But I'll be using it in a very, very tight, thin. All I'm doing is getting it smooth and uniform without any waves in it. We'll come back to that next. All right, here we go. I think I'm done with the super glue. So now I've gone with fiberglass filler, which has fibers in it that makes it strong and allows it to bridge areas and keep them from cracking. The only downside to it is it's not real flexible. It's hard as a brick, but so is the top of this dash for the most part. And the repair areas, I'm going to go in there and do that speaker opening, but first I wanted to do this because this is an area where a novice could get extremely frustrated if you were to try to do this without watching me do it. This is a big area with a lot of problems going on in it, and so you could end up making a mess out of this dash if you didn't know how to use the sheetrock knife. This is a cheap sheetrock knife, and it has a slight bend to it, bent like that. And what I can do is I can hold the corners down and come right through it like that, and voila. That area is nice and flat and finished. It won't take much sanding. And if I really wanted to make sure it was flat, I would actually pull it the other way through here. But that barely needs a piece of sandpaper on it, which is my intention. So you can actually pull through it 2 or 3 times. There's plenty of time with the fiberglass filler if you don't get as nice a pull. I mean, I've been doing this a long time, and I'm used to intimidating even guys that work with me that know this stuff but can't pull it off like I do. But that's just me. You can do a good enough job. I mean, that was the ugliest area on this whole dash in a lot of ways. I mean, you could fix those 2 cracks and wouldn't have accomplished anything as far as putting this back in the car. This is still viable, so I'm going to fill in this little spot here. Don't need to do anything really fancy with that spot because it's not just a tiny divot. Oh, same way with this over here. I've got another spot here, and this fiberglass filler is still flexible. It's not. I still got the cracks to do, and I'll do those next. All right, so now I'm coming back in here, and I'm going to fix this wide gap and these 2 scratches. All right, you don't ever stir filler. You always squeegee through it like this until you get a uniform color. Now, one of the major drawbacks that people have in fixing a dash is they think they have to fix it with flexible materials. And that'd be true if this was a new dash. But with a 55-year-old dash like this, what's the point? This thing's hard as a brick. So all I'm concerned with is making it where it's looks like it's supposed to. And you know, this gap here, I'm not even sure that I would have fixed this gap if it hadn't been for the fact that it had shrunk so much on this side. So I'm not trying to profile anything right here, but what I'm trying to do is get it to where this dash, other than grain, looks perfect. I don't want to sand too much if I can avoid it. And so I'm taking off all the excess as much as I can. I don't care about the grain because I'm going to put the grain back in chemically. All right, now here, this I want to build up as much as I can. But the problem is you got to be able to get this speaker grill out of here when I'm done. And I may have to do this 2 coats. It may just be unescapable. Yeah, so, but here's the trick on this. There needs to be some kind of gap here, and I don't want to sand it in there if I can avoid it. So I'm coming in like this, and I'm cutting that loose. That didn't exactly work out the way I wanted it to, but it's okay. So that's a pretty nice line right there, actually. So I think I'm going to quit while I'm ahead. Yeah, that corner right there was where you could see how much the dash had shrunk right there. I told you that I was going to be putting the fiberglass mesh on, and that was the core of this repair. And that's what I'm going to do. Now I'm going to show you exactly how that's done. I like to use a China bristle and some primer. What I kind of do is kind of make a band to hook it. Yeah, see, there it is. It's like, that's the one side, that's the other scratch, and I got this all up here. Okay. It's not really feasible to move it once I get it stuck. Okay, now here we go. Now the nice thing about it is I can put this down very tightly, and my primer goes through it and hooks it. Now any kind of primer will work. I've used epoxy, I've used 2K. The one I like the most is UV, which is what this is. The biggest problem I find with it, though, is it's probably not going to be as thick as what I've liked in the past. But this stuff builds, and this is going over that big damaged area. And of course I'll have to be careful to make sure that I don't cut through this, because this is where the all strength is. Now, because this is a UV primer, the cool thing about it for me is that there is no window for this to dry on me. I've got all the time in the world, so I can do little kind of unique things, like I can dab the edge where I don't want to lose my grain. All right, so now I'm going to come through here, finish this up. Now the biggest problem with this is that you can't really bury the edges of this fiberglass very easy. You almost have to sand it off. If I was using matting, I would tear all the edges so it doesn't leave an edge on it. But I've never found micro matting, which is where the fiberglass goes all in different directions and is not a cloth like this. I don't know how good matting would work for this as far as strength goes, because matting doesn't have the strength of fiberglass cloth. And of course in this instance it's a really tiny fiberglass cloth, so it's even more important that I have strength in this. But it's really nice stuff to work with. But I cut this, you know, I don't really care where it goes. The good thing about this is this will make it practically impossible for the dash pad to tear or split where I have this primer. It might find a way to do it somewhere else, but it won't be doing it where this is. Very seldom seen anything come back after I put this cloth in here. All right, so normally I would lift this and put it where I want it, but I'm not gonna. You know, I'd lift it and I would put this primer streak in here to hold it in place, but I'm not gonna. Now see what I'll do once this dries, which is 2 or 3 minutes at most, once I decide to dry it, then I'll scuff it and I'll add another coat of primer. You know, I'll just keep adding primer until I get it to where it's smooth on top. I got to bury this. I don't want to cut this fiberglass because that's where the strength is. And of course you can kind of see if you've got any air bubbles or anything. That's not a good situation, because when you sand it, you're going to sand through the fiberglass and leave a hole. Probably wouldn't really hurt much, but I try to. Now theoretically, you could actually cover an entire dash pad with this stuff, and that would be pretty impressive. I've never done it, but I don't see why you couldn't. Let me get over here. Product from Mohawk that was used to put a faux ancient finish on old furniture, and I used that sprayed over vinyl dye to get the paint to crack, and depending on how much you put it on, you get a different size grain. It's a little tough to work with. Takes some. That's the other thing that you can do is you can take a really thick primer, which is what I like to do, and you can get way back and spray a real bumpy finish on, which will look a lot like what you're trying to get, which is to bury the to create the vinyl again. So I actually glued this opening down too. I glued this side, and that side, and I decided not to do that side. It was down, and I got a couple of dents in the dash pad right here from where I did that, but there was no cracks there. So I'm not sure if I'm going to go ahead and even that out with some filler of some sort. But that's pretty much it. So I'm going to take my light and cure this. You try to cure this stuff without some kind of eye protection, you get welder burn really bad in the middle of the night. Okay. I guess it is still following me. I don't know if the mask is camouflaging me or not. But because that fiberglass cloth is translucent, this goes right through it. All right. That was a minute and a half. It's probably cured as much as I want it to be cured. So that's dry. Like this part right here looks actually better than this does because I kind of daubed it more. So But the big challenge here is going to be hiding these edges. And like I say, you could use regular automotive epoxy, which has a really good long cure time. You could brush it same way. You could probably even roll it and get a pretty good finish out of it. I'm not really certain that you have to scratch this stuff in between coats with a little drying that I did. This stuff sticks like super glue. It's really an amazing product. Oh, I didn't dry it under there. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to add the same kind of texture that I got over there. It really should not take long to bury this. This stuff builds unbelievably. And of course I will edit this and cut out some of it so you don't have to watch the whole thing. But I've been doing this for decades. It was 40 years ago I was doing vinyl and leather repair and learned to do the basics of this, and then over time I actually kind of added my own take on it. So I have paid the premier dash pad company in California, you probably know who I'm talking about, to do dashes for me. And you know, they were nice. Could I have complained about them? Oh, absolutely. You know, you have problems with getting the dash pad to fit. Sometimes it's a little too thick. The other problem is it's not always finished on all the edges. You have areas where it's sloppy and you have to cut and trim and then. But I mean, if that's all you got, that's what you got to go with. And of course, if you don't have a beat up old dash pad like this, you really don't have a choice. But I have seen many dashes that people were talking about sending off to get refinished that were as good as this one or better, sometimes a lot better. And for me, this was just a no-brainer because it's fun. It's a few hours and I've got a dash pad, whereas waiting 6 months or 8 months or whatever it is to get one from the best place in California just is bad. Or you send money to some outfit in Texas or something that takes people's money and they don't get a dash pad. So here's a, oh man, I got some primer or something there. I got to cut that off. This sands back unbelievably good too. So that's good to know. If you get in a situation where you know, you have any kind of flaws at all, it's automotive primer. It just dries a different way. And you know, you can get this from the major paint manufacturers all have one. The only problem I have with this one, I'm not going to tell you which one it is because it really isn't important, and I don't know how that works with YouTube, but you know, you can go with Sherwin-Williams, you can go with PPG, you can go with BASF. They all have one. And then there's other companies that also, you know, not name brand companies who actually have a version of this. But the cool thing about it is I can just keep adding coats to it like I'm doing, and till I get what I want, sand a little bit in between coats, and I'm only a couple of minutes away from sanding and doing the next step with this stuff. So the biggest obstacle probably is going to be you have to buy a quart of this stuff, and it's just not cheap. The average, I would say, price for UV primer is probably about $250 to $300 a quart. I get it for a lot less, but that's just my circumstances and because of my business relationship. But anyway, this is actually looking really, really good with this little coat. And of course, you can actually change the stipple by, you know, how dry you put it on. I mean, at this point, I'm trying to cover up what's underneath, so I've kind of got I'm putting on kind of a heavy stipple, but you can actually put it on way drier, and that gets you closer to having the look that you want of it being, you know, a leather look dash. But this area here just had brush marks in it, and it actually looks really, really good at this point. Because it doesn't dry on its own, it has to have UV to dry it. It tends to stay kind of shiny. You know, I'll go in and re-stipple it like this, and then you know, I'm dry stippling it to try to get a tighter grain look to it, and it just kind of wants to wet back out. But you could progressively get it closer to the original dash pad look by doing this drier and drier and drier. Sand and then dry it. There's one little spot right there that I had a bubble. I didn't get primer through it, and it doesn't want to go through it now. Shouldn't cause a problem. Oh, there's a drop I dropped in. It's hard as a brick. Okay, but I'd say it's a far cry from what it was when I first started taking these videos of this repair. So maybe this will hold a little bit of hope for some of you guys that are working on kind of a beater, and the dash pad is an obstacle because of the little money you have to work with. This really you can do this for really small money. And the tiny fiberglass cloth you can get it on eBay. You can get it probably on Amazon, although there seems to be no shortage of it. When I decided I was going to make this video, I looked to see if it was available, because this stuff I've had for decades. I bought a bunch of it, and I've used it to restore probably 10 or 15 dash pads over the years, for myself, for my friends, for my customers. All right, so I'm going to keep on building this up and perfecting it, sanding in between coats. At this point, this video is about 30 minutes long, so I'm going to have plenty of editing to do. But hopefully this gets the juices flowing. So it looks like I'm out of juice anyway. Signing off.